Hi, it's your friend Marvin Stafford, the Smile Motivator. Good morning. I know I missed yesterday, and I made a little story, apologizing. But I'm back today, and I'm ready to get in it. Communication and relationships. I'm so excited to continue this message. The last time I was with you Monday, we talked about knowing yourself and knowing the type of communicator you are, and knowing how you communicate. It's very, very important to know all that information. And I gave you the example of myself. I am an emotional communicator, but I'm a nonverbal communicator, which means I don't use a lot of words naturally to communicate. I show a lot of affection, which is a good thing in relationships. But a bad thing because I don't use a lot of words, and I can become closed off and distant when we're going into hard or difficult conversations. And just understanding who you are, how you feel in the moment, before you actually go into a conversation. How are you feeling right then? What kind of emotional state that you are in before you get into the relationship? So that was a good message. I sent it out, and I got some calls on it saying thank you. Hey, keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing forward. So I'm in it today and ready to give it to you today. Communication in relationships. So today what we're going to be talking about is the fight that we're in, the battle that we're in, and we're going to talk about the value of people. Understanding the value of people. I might not get into the full of the understanding part, but I definitely want to get into the battle. I definitely want to understand where we are in this battle and correlate the battle to how it fits in to communication. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. When I was married, I'm not married right now, but when I was married, I used to love to interview couples, especially couples who've been married such a long time. And two particular couples come to mind. I don't remember their name, but I do remember how long they were married. And it was one thing I definitely had to ask them. What was their secret? So the first one was a couple that was married 50 plus years. I say 50 plus because I don't remember exactly what it was. It was around 50, anywhere from 54 to 58 years. I wasn't sure. So I said 50 plus years. And they said the secret is they never go to bed angry. Wow. That was big. That was big. The other one was a couple who met in high school. And they had been together all their lives from there. They were like in their 90s, 92, 94. They were a couple years apart, but they were both in their 90s. And they said they've been married for 75 years. 75 years married. And they say they never argue. Not in high school, not in their 20s, not raising kids, not then. Not now, or then at the time. That is crazy. Wow. That was, oh my God. And a lot of people were like that. A lot of people said that. But the majority of people said, I can't do that. Because I know what kind of person I am. I know how I communicate. And in the evening time, I'm drained. I can't get into no hard conversation about the kids and life and finances and all this, why you do this and all this. I can't get into that stuff. It's best for me to get into the early in the morning or into the day when my mind is clear and fresh. But so I know I can't operate like that. So I know what they're saying. I know exactly what they're saying. They're coming, both of those, and a lot more couples said the same thing, but they're coming out of Ephesians 4:26. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath. I know where they're coming from. I know. But as I look at this scripture and I study this scripture, it doesn't say don't let the sun go down on the earth. Don't let the sun go down to earth. Don't go to bed mad. Well, although it's a good practice not to go to bed mad, not to sleep on your anger. But what the scripture is saying, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. This is a scripture about light and darkness. This is a scripture about the battle, about the war we're in. This is a scripture about fighting good versus evil, light versus darkness, wisdom versus ignorance. And I say that because this is a battle we have been in since the beginning of time. This scripture specifically reminds me of a counseling session that God himself gave to one of his sons. That account is the account of Abel and Cain, or Cain and Abel as we know it. You know the story that, Cain and Abel both brought offerings to God. If you don't know the story, it's in Genesis chapter 4 about how God, and Cain and Abel brought offerings to God. Abel's offering was accepted, was respected, and Cain's was not. And Cain walked away hot. He was ticked off. And this is the counseling session that God gave to Cain. He said, so the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you. But, this is the part I love, you should rule over it. And that was a one-on-one counseling session that God gave Cain. If you do right, you'll be accepted. If you don't do right, sin is at the door. And it wants you. It wants to take you over. But God said you should rule over it. And this is the fight that's been going on since the beginning of time. The account in Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and he divided the light from the darkness. Okay, Marvin. I hear people out there. Okay, Marvin. You're stretching now. You're stretching. They're just talking about the day and the night. Yes, absolutely. Also, it's talking about light versus darkness. So understanding what darkness is, because darkness was italicized, I had to go look it up. And the darkness this is referring to in this does mean night, but also, good morning, son. It also means misery, destruction, death, ignorance, sorrow, and wickedness. Absolutely. So this is a fight that we're in with darkness and light. But the one of the darkness that I really, really appreciated, that stuck out to me when I was reading the figurative part of it, was ignorance. So instead of saying darkness, let's just go with ignorance. And if we are going to go with ignorance, what shall we use to represent light? Let's use wisdom. This is a fight that we're in against wisdom and ignorance. It's the same fight throughout the whole scriptures. Light, darkness, wickedness, wickedness and evil against good and righteousness, or wisdom and ignorance. So if we're going to understand that, we got to understand that we must come at the understanding of communication. We must enter it with the mind of wisdom and not a mind of ignorance. A mind to build people up and not a mind to tear them down. These people who have been married all these years, and they understand that there is, and talking to them, they understand that they might not put it the way I put it in a war, in a battle, but they understand there is light and darkness in all of us. There is light and darkness since the beginning of time. There is a war, and a war in us against wisdom and ignorance, against darkness and light. We're taking the right path and taking the wrong path. But we got to stay on the path of understanding, of a path of wisdom. When we are having conversations, we have to treat and understand how we communicate. We understand that every person has value. We are not the most valued person in the room. Although we think we are sometimes, but every person has value. Case in point, I want to say yesterday, but it wasn't yesterday, it was Monday. I usually shoot these videos by myself. My children are in the bed and I'm shooting them. But the last couple of times I shot a little bit later in the morning. Yesterday, my son got up. He knew I was shooting the video. He heard me talking, but he got up and came in here. He could have stayed in his room and charged his phone from in the room, or stayed in the room and charged his phone from the room, but he didn't. He came out. I said good morning to him. I was surprised he came out. And he went in there, asked him about to turn on the TV. His phone was dead, so he came over to my computer, which is in front of me right here. And a light was right here. He plugged up his phone and accidentally knocked down the light. All right, so coming in to the video session, also knocking down my light, I have a choice. It's time for battle. It's time for the war. Do I choose wisdom or do I choose ignorance in how I respond to him? Am I going to build him up or am I going to tear him down? This is the fight that we're in every day with our coworkers, with our friends, with our loved ones, with our spouses, and yes, with our children. I could have easily, in the old person I was, because I'm very emotional, and the negative side of that too, I would burn out. I would go from 0 to 60 in seconds. But that does not build people up by spewing out negativity. He knocked down, clearly an accident. He came in. He's a child. He's not thinking at the moment. His mind is focused. I want to be on my phone and it's not charged. I know Dad has a charger on his computer. I'm gonna go plug up my phone. Not the ideal situation, but I recognize my son has value. I recognize, I cherish the value, and I want him to understand his value and maintain his value. So I'm not going to tear him down. I'm not going to choose the side of ignorance. I'm going to tell him that it's okay. No problem. I'm going to tell him that I love him. He made a mistake in the middle of shooting a video, but it's okay because his value is worth more than me making this video. His value, how he is now and how he is going to be, understanding that I'm in a war, understanding I'm not raising children. Because if you raise a child, the outcome will be a child. But if I'm raising a man, the outcome will be a man who understands his value and understands that his father loves him and it's okay when he makes a mistake. If the mistake was bigger, we'll have another conversation. If the later, if the mistake was bigger and it caused a reaction in my mind, in my brain, an emotional reaction in me, we're going to take a little time. I'm going to calm down and I'm going to approach him like I would approach a man, but talking to a child that I want to grow up into a man. I don't raise children. In 1 second here. I don't raise no children. I raise adults. When a farmer plants seeds, he doesn't raise seeds. He raises whatever he's producing. If a corn farmer plants corn, he's raising corn. He's not raising corn seeds. So I don't raise children. I raise men and women. Understanding their value, understanding they have a purpose, understanding that if I tear them down, they got to deal with that mess for the rest of their life. So I put wisdom into them. I put understanding into them. I lift them up. I build them up and try my hardest. I want to say something else. My hardest not to never tear them down. Never again be the man I used to be. I know it's been a long video today, but we got to understand that we're in a war. Understanding there's a war against light and darkness, against wisdom and ignorance. And every person, not just our children, every person we come in contact with has value. And when we come from that perspective, we can understand that everybody's important. What they have to say is important. We can be better listeners and better communicators. Hey, I'm Marvin Stafford, the Smile Motivator. And I'm reminding you that we are staying motivated in life eternal. Have a great and awesome day today. Like and share the video. Comment, share with your friends, invite your friends like Smile Motivation. And I got a lot more to give you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.